Greetings! Welcome back to World of Tanks with the Captain, and today I'm going to be taking a look at the M7 medium tank. This is the most overpowered tank in the game. Anyone who's obviously ever gone up against it and, you know, it's wiped out half your team, sometimes 8, sometimes 10 kills, you'll realize that this is probably the most overpowered tank in the game. But in all seriousness, it's not. About 440 hit points for this guy. Actually, let's just start off the tech tree. So to get to this quick little number, you have to go down the scout line, and you have to suffer through the M5 Stuart, and then you get into the M7 here, and that leads on to the T21 and all the autoloader tanks, which look like they're actually quite fun. So you got to suffer through this guy, but this one's actually worse. I would drive the M7 100 times before I drive the M5 again. So when you get to this guy, you see he doesn't have a whole ton of hit points. He's got less than the other medium tanks. And he doesn't weigh a lot either. He only weighs about 23 tons. Decently torquey engine, about 460 horsepower, which isn't too bad for how much it weighs. The power to weight ratio is 19.43, which is okay. Some of the better tanks have about 23. That leads on to the traverse speed and the speed limit. Very, very, very agile tank. This thing is fast as balls. Like, it accelerates pretty well. It turns pretty well. It turns at speed pretty well. It climbs fairly fast, and it runs away really fast because a lot of the time you're gonna go up to somewhere and scout tanks and treat this like a scout tank. And then you're going to run away because the only thing you have to shoot back with is the Ram 2's gun. I call it the Ram 2's gun because I used the Ram 2 before I got to the M7, but that's what I call it the Ram 2's gun. And I'll get to the gun after the armor. So this can be brief, by the way, as well, because there pretty much isn't any armor. You got to treat this kind of like pretty much like it has none. There's 38 in the front. I think a Panzer 1C can penetrate you from the sides and back fairly easily. There's just not much to say about, it looks like they're sloping, but I mean, you could probably bounce like toothpicks or something. Maybe like if someone threw a piece of firewood at you, but that would probably be about it. So looking at this tank with the stock turret, it actually looks pretty ridiculous. I actually don't see too many driving around with this turret, but I don't even know how to describe this thing. It's just butt ugly. There's a weak point right there. But most people will be driving around with this turret, and there's really only 2 guns to consider on this tank, and it's these top 2 guns here. So there's the 6-pounder gun, which is the Ram 2 gun, which shoots extremely fast, has decent penetration, and does piddly damage. And pretty much awful. It's like awful, but it's not terrible. Like 0.46. 0.43 is okay. And the aim time is 2.1. I wish it was 2, but it's not. And then your other choice is the M3 gun, and it's got poor rate of fire, really bad penetration. If anyone's ever driven the T14, you'll recognize this gun. You get pretty terrible penetration, even for premium rounds. If you go up against tier 6s, you're going to have major problems penetrating anything. So hopefully you don't pick this gun, because with the other gun you get 170 pen, and you can actually do something. So I don't recommend the M3. The only thing that I do like about this gun is if you get into a tier 5 game and you're fighting all tier 4 and 5 tanks, the penetration sometimes is good enough, and you do about 30% more alpha damage, because 110 is way better than 75. But it's so inaccurate, and it shoots so slowly, and the penetration is piddly. Sometimes this drops down to 70. You're going to have trouble penetrating like Panzer 3s and stuff. So I don't recommend that gun. Stick with this gun. and you'll probably have a much better time with it. The turret traverse speed is great. If you can get around a Hetzer or Stug or any other tier 5 or even tier 6 tanks, you can drive circles around them, and your turret will be able to keep up. It also makes you a little bit more versatile for scouting and stuff. So the view range is fantastic, which is 380. It is a lot better than some other tier 5 tanks, like my Panzer III-4 I just repurchased. And the signal range is really, really good. 745. I think it's actually a tier 10 radio in this thing. I don't know why it has a tier 10 radio, because you got to treat it like a scout. It also is nice because this gets unlocked. When you unlock it for this, it unlocks it for a number of other tanks. So it's kind of nice that it gets it out of the way now, because then you won't have to do it again later. So those are the tracks. These are your choices of engines. You start off with 350, they go up to 460. And you got your 2 turrets. And even the base turret, the really ugly one, has 370 meters view range, which is quite good. So I've only been driving this tank with 75% crew, and I've got them up to 87%. It's a bit of a slog when they're 75. Like, the tank doesn't feel anywhere near as good as it does now. I'm assuming it'll feel a lot better when it's at 100, but I obviously don't have it there yet, because I'm not going to spend gold on getting the crew in an M7 to be proficient. I just won't do it. I'd rather just slog through it and get to the T21, which I don't know if I'm really looking forward to either, but it may be better than this. Probably not. So looking at this tank, the way I've got it set up, it's a little bit different from some of my other guys. Being that the gun shoots so fast, I take more rounds. So I got about 45 rounds in this guy, 12 APCR, because I want to be able to penetrate higher tier tanks if I need to. If I see a VK3601, I don't engage it, I run away. Things like that, don't go near him. Oh, or a KV1. Unless he's got like 200 health and you maybe want to take a hit or two. For my modular things here, I take small repair kit, first aid kit, and instead of fire extinguisher, I kind of think this thing, it's going to die before it lights on fire, because it gets, yeah. So what I pretty much do is I run it with the fuel, just to try and get it to be as maneuverable and as punchy as possible in its maneuverability department and the agility. The only other stuff I put on this thing are the things I can take off pretty easily, and I put on a tank gun rammer. It really, really doesn't need it. I had an extra one, so I threw it on it, and I'll pull it off. I'm not going to keep it on this tank for too much longer, I don't think. I only need about, got 10,000. Yeah, I'm going to unlock the next tank in about 20,000 experience, so it won't be too long before I don't have to use this thing anymore. So ideally, I would probably get the coated optics. If I was going to kit this thing out, I would probably get coated optics to see as far as I can. The aiming time doesn't really matter because you're not really going to be doing crap tons of damage in this thing. You probably would want to look at maybe getting the enhanced suspension, because you don't want to get your tracks blown off in this thing or you'll wind up dead. And probably vents. Vents would be a good idea for this tank, if you were going to keep it and it was your love child kind of tank. But it's not for me necessarily. I have other tanks that are fast that do a better job at being fast scout tanks than this thing, but it's not completely terrible. It's better than the M5, and I don't know why they call it a medium tank. They should just call it a light tank. It's kind of just screwing my experience for when I need to retrain my crew back down to a light tank crew from the M5, which was a light tank, and then it's going to go back to a light tank again when I get to the M21. So that's going to be a bit of an annoying thing on it, but I mean, that's how they set it up. I guess 23 tons is enough to call it a medium tank, even though the armor is pathetic. I've had numerous shots go straight through here. The weak points are pretty much everywhere. More weak here, more weak there, obviously. I don't think that thing on the back is actually a hitbox for the tank. It's probably just for cargo. So you don't want to necessarily shoot there. You want to shoot at the bulk of here. Anything will go in through the sides. Anything will probably go in through the back. There's pretty much 90 degrees sloping in the back. So yeah, pretty much get this tank, work your way through it, and then move on to the next tank. But I do have a couple of replays I want to show you of it. So here you go. All right. I just drove through the pumpkin patch there, and we are on the North American map, better known as Highway. And I'm heading off west. Life is peaceful here. I'm not going to sing the whole song. So as you can see, the teams are really well balanced. I mean, they have like a KV-1S, a KV-2, and an M6, and a T-14, and we have a Jagdpanzer IV, and an Su-100Y, and a VK. Yeah, so we got one heavy tank, and they have 4. So things are looking good. It's going to go really well. So I'm just trying to poke a little bit here to see if I can get anything to pop up. I'm assuming there'll be tanks up here at some point. We have second contact down in the base there. Oh, and there's an M6, and he's aiming at me. And I don't want to shoot at him necessarily in the front, so I'm just going to maneuver around here a little bit. Maybe take a shot at this T-14. This tank does not have ideal gun depression, and that shot went nowhere near what I want. I was aiming at the gun port here, and even shooting at the gun port, the sloping armor in the T-14 is really, really good, and the turret's fantastic. But this isn't a T-14 review. This is the M7. So I'm going to try and pop around the corner here and take some shots at the Leopard. And this is with the .46 actually M3 gun on this tank, the completely inaccurate one. As you can see, even aiming down, oh, that one went in and did the exact average amount of damage. So, managed to tag him. So the Leopard's out of the game. Obviously the most powerful tank. So now I'm gonna take a quick shot at them. Though I saw that they were both aiming at me, so I just decided to back off a little bit. I'm just seeing who's on my team over here, and there's Matilda and a really small tier 4 guy. And then I get pegged by the M6. I'm not sure where that went in. It didn't even show a mark on my tank where I got hit. So I was just kind of confused, like, what the hell? Yeah, nowhere. So I decide I'm going to get a little bit of gun depression there, and I'm going to shoot at this guy.
Critical hit.
If there's anything the M7 can do, it's take out the tier 4s on the enemy team. So we got him taken care of, and I don't have gun depression now, so I need to completely pull over the side of the hill.
Enemy armor is damaged.
And I managed to get one shot in through him on there. And now I notice he's coming over to get me. So I'm going to try and use the hill here to come around him, because I cannot fight him frontally. I will die in I'll die in one more hit. So it's up to the 2 tier 4s to handle the M6. So I'm going to come around him, and he knocks out our 1 tier 4 with 1 shot. And that allows me to come around his side here. Aim for a couple 100 years, it felt like right there. And that shot misses gloriously, because I didn't need that shot to go in or anything. So he takes a big hit from something. Probably the Su-100Y. And that leaves him a lot more crippled and unable to come down and get me. So I get a lucky shot here, because I'm using APCR now at this point, and that actually went through the front of his gun mallet. And he got tagged again there by the artillery, so now he's a 1-shot for me, because he's also getting shot up by the Panzer III. And he's more concerned with the Panzer III than he is with me. And now they're capping, but I pretty much think this is a foregone conclusion at this point. I just want to secure the kill on this guy. So,
Enemy vehicle destroyed.
got him taken care of, and I'm going to try and help the Su-100Y, but with .46 accuracy from where I'm shooting from, it wasn't happening. Like, I tried to hit this guy over and over and over again, but it just didn't work. This is a reason why this gun is just a pile of crap on this tank, and why I switched back to the ram gun. The 6-pounder. So, like that shot, fully aimed, should have gone in, didn't go in.
They did us.
Bounced that shot.
Enemy is hit.
I do hit him with that shot, and this is 830 damage now. And yeah, it's not going where I need it to go. That one's dropping low. I don't know if it looked like that one just went right through the tank there. But yeah. At this point, I just kind of packed her in. And yeah, that is how to lose gloriously in your M7 against an M6 who got nailed. And then I was able to take him out. So that's a 3-kill game, 830 damage. Pretty okay. Alright, here we are in Severogorsk. Is it Severodvinsk? Never mind. So I can see that our Stug here is engaging our Hetzer. And I don't know how I missed that shot.
Enemy armor is hit.
And I shoot so much faster than the Hetzer because he's derping that I was able to get that kill. So I'm just kind of surveying who is where, and I decide I'm just going to go for it here. And I want to drive around this Hetzer here, but he's like going to park right in front of me. So he does get out of the way, and now I can keep going. And this map is still pretty much new to a lot of people, including myself. I'm going to try in vain to climb the side of the mountain here because, you know, give it a shot. You can climb a lot of the side of the other mountain, so I was like, yeah. Yeah, that didn't happen. Well, and then I run into a T-40 and he just completely ignored me. So I was just like, okay,
Enemy armor is damaged.
I will shoot you.
Penetration.
And almost got the kill there, but the Hetzer came and stole it. I guess he kind of, maybe I owed him because I stole the Stug kill, but he might have missed or not penetrated the Stug. So then I find an M3 Stuart, and on the move, the M7 manages to miss. So I take him out because he was AFK, and that was a bit of free damage. So I come around the hill here, and I spot the Churchill 3. He's reversing.
Enemy is hit.
He was actually a pretty good player, 61 win rate.
Bounced off.
And then bounce.
Penetration.
And that one penned.
Enemy armor is
That one penned.
damaged.
There's too many guys for him to concentrate on, so I think I took his gun out or his gunner there.
Enemy vehicle
And
destroyed.
boom! That guy is done. So when you're using swarm tactics and stuff, like the Hetzer and the Covenanter, we're all shooting at him. This tank can be quite effective as like a diversionary tank, which is kind of how I use it. The gun depression on it kind of sucks. Like, I can't poke over hills like I can in the M4. I wouldn't be able to use it in the same way, so you're going to be a little bit more limited in that way. So now I'm just trying to skirt around using my speed. Doing 50, not too bad on rough ground. And there's a Matilda, which I probably can't penetrate very easily, so I switch targets and shoot the other guy instead.
Penetration.
And then he gets taken out. And that leaves the one artillery who happens to be right in front of me. And instead of stopping like
Enemy armor is hit.
like an idiot,
We're immobilized.
I get hit.
We've lost some ammo.
And I put it around into him
Didn't
before I can
explode.
shoot again. That Covenanter comes and takes the kill. So, this is the M7. Not the most glorious tank in the world. It is fast, its gun depression is poor, its armor is poor, its agility is good. There's nothing too memorable about it. It doesn't stand out in any way too fantastically. Honestly, I would probably rather be driving like a Covenanter with the what was it, like 100 penetration gun? It has a pretty good penetration gun on it. There's other small light scout tanks that I'd rather drive than this thing. Like the Chaffee will rip this thing a new hole. Like I don't know if there's many tanks that it's better than at Tier 5. I would take my Panzer III-4, my Panzer IV above this, my T-34. The Type T-34 I would take above this. Yeah, there isn't much to really to say about this thing. It is sort of capable, but it's not great. It's kind of fun if you like bombing around, but as soon as you get put into a tier 6, a heavy tier 6 game, you're gonna find, like, unless you stick close to some other tanks and you can be diversionary, you're gonna have trouble really doing a whole ton of damage. Your best bets are to stick close to someone big, and if you can do that, then try and skirt around if they're alone and they're not wolf packing, and try and attack that way. And if that all fails, then just try and go and kill their artillery, because this thing's fast enough to like jump in behind enemy lines, especially if you let the game evolve and you can kind of skirt in around behind. So not necessarily my seal of approval. It's kind of like a Passover tank before you can get to the decent autoloader tanks like the T-71 and the T-69 and going on from there. So it's got its good points and its bad points. You're going to have to go through it if you want those tanks. I don't know if I'd recommend it. It's probably not a keeper in my garage at all. And yeah, it's kind of like a Passover tank. So yeah, if you enjoyed the review, give me a like and subscribe if you want to see more replays. And I'll talk to you soon. Keep your armor pointed this way. Bye-bye.